Once Srila Gurudev said about himself, just saying it because he said this, with a little lightness, a little humor, but serious at the same time. He said, dealing with me is like dealing with a cobra. And so what he meant is, you have to be conscious at every moment when you're dealing with Vaishnavas. So, and like the cobra in this example, if you become inattentive or too familiar or whatever, you're going to get bit. Right? So, I sometimes think of Srila Gurudev and Srila Guru Maharaj, but particularly Srila Gurudev, I would put it this way, that who was infinitely superior to us in every way imaginable. But particularly, we mean with particular emphasis on Vaishnavata, right? This devotional position, who was infinitely superior to us, treated us in such a way as if we were equals. And at times, you could become so complacent to maybe think that you are, however momentary that might be, because he made you feel so relaxed, so at ease, so much love and affection and friendship, right? That who's infinitely superior is making us feel like equals. And we should be cautious in our dealings with others that we don't treat those who are superiors as if they're subordinates. Right? It's one thing if an exalted personality is so kind-hearted, generous, and liberal that they make others feel at ease and they're equal and happy to be around them. Srila Guru Maharaj, he says of Srila Sanatana Goswami Prabhu, we know the great Sanatana Goswami, the Guru of Rupa Sanatan, the Sambandha Gyanacharya, what to speak of his position in the spiritual world. I mean, Sanatana Goswami. But Guru Maharaj says in Vrindavan, like we hear referenced in the Shad Goswami Astakam of Srinivasacharya, Dhira Dhira Jana Priyo Priyakaro Nirmatsaro Pujito. Dhira and Adhira. Dhira Dhira Jana Priyo. Dear to everyone, Priyakaro Nirmatsaro. Totally non-envious. If anyone, why? How this word is peculiar, non-envious, not envious. Guru Maharaj, when he's explaining about Bhav Ankur, the 10 aspects of Bhava Bhakti, 9, 10. One is this manshunyata, the total absence of mundane ego. And he says, why? As by way of an explanation, that there's nothing in this world of value from their perspective. So, inasmuch as their whole concept of what is real and wealthy and substantial is in the subjective realm, there's nothing in this world of interest to them. Right? Vidya bhi shevita shad bhi nityam advesha ragivi. Right? So, included within that are the people of this world. They would not be jealous of anyone because what would it be that someone would have that they don't have? Right? In the famous Samadhi sloka, Bhagavad Gita, Yam ladva chaparam labham manyate nadikam tataha. 6th chapter saying, when you're in connection with this, really, truly, substantially, and by that we mean, minimally nishta, but, ruchi, ashakti, bhav, continuous, how do you say? The continuous flow, but no breakage in the connection. It's just continuous, permanent flow of Krishna consciousness. Then yam ladva chapram labham manyate nadikam tataha. One more thing, there's nothing greater than this. And the implication of that is there's nothing in this world that they could desire, and there's no one in this world that they could be envious of. So, nirmatsaro, therefore they're pujito, worshipable. So Srila Guru Maharaj said of Sanatana Goswami Prabhu, he was known as Buro Baba, which translates as old father. Everyone liked him. We could say Sanatana Goswami might be writing the Brihad Bhagavatamritam as the Sambandha Jnanacharya, showing step by step what is the theistic gradation, and with particularly in Krishna conception, revealing so many beautiful, wonderful things there. But that's not known to everyone. He's writing that on a leaf, palm leaf. But what do they see, the people in the locale? Someone they like very much and have a very good impression of him. At the same time, we can understand, because of his exalted position, that were someone to think offensively of him, how damaging that would be. Just as we hear a story we hope is apocryphal. The story of Mirabai in relation to Rupa Goswami. As I say, we hope it is apocryphal, meaning not authentic, but where some insult is delivered to Rupa Goswami. How can we think that Rupa Goswami, who is Rupa Manjari in the spiritual world, who descends into this plane out of service necessity in the Gaura Lila pastimes of Mahaprabhu, Rupa Manjari, the leader of all the juniors, at the beck and call of Lalita Saki and Srimati Radharani, who in one place Saraswati Thakur says Sri Rupa is the separated beauty of Srimati Radharani, as if you could extract all of her beauty and personify it again in the form of Sri Rupa. That personality descended here in Gaura Lila would be in some kind of Purusha Bhav, male consciousness. As Gurudev sometimes say, and sannyas initiation, the male identity is finished. Right? So these are not practitioners, Rups and nothing, that they would descend here and be prone to some sort of maleness, male chauvinism. We hope this story is apocryphal, because there were someone to think like that towards the holy lotus feet of Sri Rupa Goswami. What hope would there be to please the Lord and his devotees? So Srila Guru Maharaj will point out, and it's perfectly consistent With what's expressed in this Nirmatsaro Bhujito, what's also expressed in Srimad Bhagavatam, Dharmak Projita Kaita Botra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam. The key to understanding Krishna conception is to not be envious of the devotees of Krishna. This is not the academic transfer of information. Right? If we're envious of Krishna's devotees, then one cannot enter into the mysteries of Krishna conception. What we sometimes call Gita Rahasya. What is the sloka? Rahasya itad uttamam. Bhaktya sanjataya bhakti. No, what is that? Sarvam itad ritam manye yanmam vadashi kesava. No. Bhaktosi me sakha cheti. Anyway, there are different places where Krishna is telling Arjuna about the Gita Rahasya. The secrets of this are revealed to you because you're not envious of the devotees. Right? So, what are the indications of envy of devotees? To not mention them, to not give proper regard. Right? So those, according to Srila Guru Maharaj, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Saraswati Thakur, Srila Guru Maharaj et al., they do not give recognition to Mirabai because she does not give any recognition to Radharani and Braja Gopis. He's expressing fictitious devotion of her and Krishna. No intermediary. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami is the Prayojan Tattva Acharya. Bilapakusa Manjali, what does he say? Sakaya me mama namastu nityam. Sakaya dashaya me mama rasastu satyam. Intimacy is pujala ragapat gaurava bange. I hold above as worshipable. If there's no superior servitor there, what would be my necessity? How can I enter that plane? So, dasaya te mama rasastu satyam. I give my attention to the least aspect of service. And only out of genuine service necessity, if called to enter into the upper plane under the shelter and guidance of the Ashraya Vigraha, superior super servitors, would I dare to take a step into that plane. Therefore, he's the Prayojan Tattva Acharya, indicating that the ultimate target of Krishna consciousness is Radha Dasyam, the servitorship of the holy lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. So, I remember contemplating the word aparad, that some inspiration came to me, but needed verification from Srila Guru Maharaj, which he did, that can we also conceive of this as apa radha, that which is against Radha. And he confirmed that that's a legitimate interpretation and understanding. So it says in the very beginning of the book, you won't catch the substance of Krishna conception. Nirmat saranam satam dharmak projita kaita botra. It may have the guise or the appearance of religion, of theistic conception, of even Krishna consciousness. Right? Mad in praise of Krishna, but no praise of the servitor of Krishna. What to speak of, that means Guru and Vaishnav, and what's the highest conception of Guru? Srimati Radharani herself, the Ujjvala Rasa Acharya, in the songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Who do we see Guru as? What are we told in the beginning of Charitamritam, in the introductory slokas, first chapter, conclusion, purport, commentary? Either the manifested representation of Nityananda Prabhu or Radharani's delegation. This covers all rasas, all aspects of Guru Tattva. Nityananda Prabhu and Srimati Radharani. What do we hear in Chaitanya Bhagavat? No proper regard for Nityananda? Cancelled. Cancel koro. Bidyakule ki koribe tar. Guru Maharaj says, Narottam's writing this for those puffed up by their learning, their knowledge, their family connection, their gotra, their caste. If they don't give proper recognition to Nityananda Prabhu, they're not accepted in the substantial devotees of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So, you say, well, these are all very high examples. Krishna consciousness is very high. Krishna consciousness is not something low. It is not only very high, it is the highest thing. So whenever we're going to assess something or try and understand it through some sort of analysis, whatever, we need to understand what the actual standard is. What is the standard of pure devotion? Then from there, we can understand the position of all other things and places. Right? We understand Jnana Shunya Bhakti, and then Jnana Misra Bhakti, Karma Misra Bhakti, Karma Misra Bhaktas, Jnana Misra Bhaktas, devotion with different mixtures. Right? We see in the book of devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, again, Rupa Goswami giving this step-by-step gradation. Shraddha, Sarusanga, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti Nishta, Ruchi, Ashakti Bhav. Then Prem, different varieties and depth and gradation. Right? What is it? Pranay, Rag, Anurag, Bhav, Mahabhav. Why all of these things there? Because it's something very refined. It's the highest of high things. There's nothing higher. So we're advised by Rupa Goswami, and interestingly, about the Upadeshamritam, Srila Guru Maharaj says that Mahaprabhu, at different times, he's expressing certain things. Right? Maybe he says some of these things more than once. Repeatedly, he expresses certain things. So Guru Maharaj says, really, Upadesh Amritam is Mahaprabhu speaking through Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami noticing that Mahaprabhu has a tendency to emphasize these particular things regularly, he's expressing them. Right? And there we will find one of the slokas, because it's, Upadesh Amritam, the gist of spiritual instructions. So we can understand everything there is very, critical. And there's only 11 slokas. One of them is about how to view Vaishnavas. And he says that for spiritually advanced people, when they see the Jamuna River or the Ganga in India, if there's some dirty things that have been thrown in there, that doesn't change their conception that this is that water that's descended from the lotus feet of Krishna, the lotus feet of Vishnu, come down into this world. It's, Prema, Brahmadatri, Krishna Prem in liquid form. They take the water of the Jamuna on their head, regardless of what we see objectively. This makes modern people nervous. Right? We're told, spiritually advanced, they won't hesitate. They're thinking. Guru Maharaj talks about Professor Sanyal, that where he lived, what they call Radha Desh, means where the Ganges doesn't flow. There, when he grew up as a child in their household, they'd have like one little bottle of Ganga water on their altar, and maybe a few times a year, a few drops would be taken out, and everybody, you get a drop, they'd take that on their head. So when he finally saw the Ganga, he almost fainted. That what we were appreciating in drops is so valuable. This vast river with boats and a bridge going, he couldn't contain his joy. That was his way of seeing. So what Rupa Goswami is saying here, and try to at least understand the example, whether we have the faith to be like that, that's another thing. But understand again the principle, the example, the what do they call it in mathematics? Not formula. No, there's another word when you learn like how to add, subtract, multiply, divide. I can't think of that word right now. But you get the idea. So here Rupa Goswami is saying, as they ignore, to put this in a summary maxim sutra, they're ignoring the objective aspect in favor of the subjective. That's what he's saying. Look past what you see objectively. Don't see with the external eye. Right? We talk of Shastra Chakshus, Jnana Chakshus. I mean, seeing through the eyes of Scripture, seeing through the eyes of the Vaishnavas. We want to see through the eyes of Rupa Goswami. So he's saying, don't focus on the objective aspect. Focusing on the subjective aspect, we're taking that upon our heads as worshipable. So that's his example. What is the parallel? Saying, when you see a Vaishnava, just as if someone had a physical defect, we would ignore it. Well, there's other type of defects. Maybe mental defect, intellectual defect, personality defect. He's saying, ignore that in favor of the subjective aspect, their devotional tendency. As Srila Gurudev said in his final time, in the summary, generous summation, he said, everyone has some fault, no doubt. He said, big or small, that is not the question. He said, but who has a devotional tendency? That has to be recognized and respected. We, hear of those who, in Russia, they call it the Great Patriotic War, right? In other places, they call it World War II, same thing. Though to this day, those who fought in that war are honored, right? Because of their self-sacrifice. They were willing to sacrifice themselves for the greater good. And it doesn't matter, we could say, soldiers are revered worldwide in different countries around the world, that they made the ultimate sacrifice for their countrymen. So we respect that nobility. Does that mean that they were perfect people? Right? No. They had all the flaws and faults that ordinary people have, but because they were willing to sacrifice themselves for this cause, everyone's respecting and honoring them. Right? So what to speak of someone is sacrificing themselves for the ultimate cause? Krishna conception. Everyone in connection with the Krishna consciousness movement, substantially, this tendency is awakened in them. On some level, they're engaged in some sort of self-sacrifice for the ultimate cause. So we're willing to overlook everything and focus and revere that. That's what it means to be non-envious. There's nothing else of value. na sochati na kankshati, brahmabhuta prasanatma, na sochati na kankshati, samaksarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim lev. Coming to this position, realize there's nothing in this world worth, getting upset about. That puts one on the threshold of mad bhaktim labhate param. Then they're ready to enter, nirmatsaranam satam, not envious of the devotees. Rather, that's the negative aspect. What is the inverse of non-envious? Praising, recognizing devotional tendencies, and giving praise for that. So much so that Srila Gurudev referred to that as, I'm practicing my religion. And what was his religion? Praising others for their good qualities. Once someone, a great disciple of Srila Saraswati Thakur, was praising Srila Govinda Maharaj to the extreme. And one of his disciples objected. He said, you're giving too much praise to Govinda Maharaj. And he answered by saying, I have to recognize the spiritual substance and serving tendency that I see there. Otherwise, if I do not recognize that, some fault comes to me. So one half is fault finding, which is not only, it would be okay if it was just a waste of time. Unfortunately, it's not just a waste of time. It destroys devotional development. Right? Vaishnav aparad, not uncontrolled senses. They may stagnate devotion, but Vaishnav aparad, we're told, can uproot the devotional creeper. Right? So that's the one side. To avoid fault finding, what did Saraswati Thakur say? It is only that I am honeycombed with thousands of defects that I take the task of finding fault with Vaishnavas. That's the one side. But the other side is, as in this case, Srila Bhakti Dvaita Madhav Maharaj said, if I do not praise, then some fault comes to me for not recognizing the good qualities of that devotee, their serving tendency, their devotional tendency. And rather, we could say, by praising them, then your devotional position improves. As if by praising that quality, that some semblance of that quality descends in you through appreciation. That's why we hear, Gopyas tapakimachara yaramushi rupam lavanya saramasamordva ananya siddhim drigbi pipantinu sava binavam darapam ekantadama yashasha shriya aiswarasya. When Krishna and Balaram and cowherd boys go to Mathura for Kamsa's Olympics, right? When the ladies of Mathura see Krishna, he's so beautiful, lavanya saram. Actually, you could say lavanya saram means beauty cream. Or you could say it means the cream of beauty. Any way you take it, Krishna's the creme de la creme of all beautiful substances. So when they see him, they say lavanya saram asamordva, means unparalleled, unequaled beauty. Their immediate thoughts, by inference, they're recognizing their own good fortune at seeing, beholding the beauty of Krishna. But their first thoughts are, Gopyas tapak kimacharan yaramusya rupam. What did the Braja Gopis do? That what we now just had a glimpse of the beauty of Krishna and realize how fortunate we are, but they're drinking the nectar of Krishna's beauty incessantly, always. What did they do to achieve that position? Gopyas tapa. Some tapasya they did. Yadvansana Sri Lalana Charatapo Vihaya Kamam Suchitam Vidavrita. Kasyana Bhavosha Chadeva Vidmahe Tavangri Renus Parashadikara, the wives of Kaliya, they're saying, this is unbelievable. Our husband, who was so offensive a few moments ago, now he's decorated with the dust of the lotus feet of Krishna all over his 1,000 heads. Right? And they're a little bruised. And he is wearing so many jewels, rubies on the head. Then the rubies are crushed, so there's like this beautiful red powder, and from the kumkum, so many things. They're saying, he was so offensive, and now he's blessed with the dust of the lotus feet of Krishna. But Lakshmi Devi, Yadvanchana Shri Lalana Charatapo, she did tapa for so many lifetimes and couldn't get this sort of benediction. So it's not tapa. They're thinking, Gopyas tapa kimacharan. Maybe they did some kind of tapasya. We first heard when reading the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Brahma being born from the lotus navel of Garvadakshayi Vishnu, right? The lotus stem comes out, the lotus flower opens, and Brahma awakens to find himself sitting on this rather large lotus flower. And he can't see Vishnu from his position. He's starting to wonder, who am I? Where have I come from? What is my purpose? And we're told, he hears the sound, ta, pa, ta, pa. And he gets some inspiration to do tapasya. Right? But in one place, Srila Prabhupada defines it as voluntarily inconveniencing oneself for the sake of spiritual realization. That's how we understand it in the general sense. But when we factor in Sarvashad Gunavishishta, Bhagavan Sarvashad Gunavishishta, that the Braja Gopis, they're so automatically, irresistibly drawn by the beauty, charm, and sweetness of Krishna to offer themselves wholesale to him, to offer themselves to be exploited by Krishna to the nth degree, that there's no consideration of inconvenience or voluntarily, and it's almost involuntary. So first, they possess this type of devotion, which is so extraordinary. It is the devotion of Srimati Radharani reflected into their hearts. They're serving her. Her type of devotion has come to them. That in the Chaitanyastakam of Rupa Goswami, says, Sureshanam Durgam Gati Ati Shayano Panishadam Muninam Sarvasam Pranata Madhurima Viniryasa Premna Pashu Padambuja Satchetanna Kame Punar Pidashor Yashati Padam. They are saying, the Braja Gopis observe that Sureshanam Durgam Gati Atishayeno Panishadam. What's very difficult for the Sura Isha, means the highest demigods, and the Upanishads, as we told, Shrutivir, Brahmigyam, they can only indicate that direction. The Braja Gopis have got full possession of that divine substance, and Guru Maharaj says, indicated here, they're astonished to see that in Krishna as Mahaprabhu, saying the love that we find in the heart of our mistress, meaning Srimati Radharani, now he's come to personify that. So we hear from Rupa Goswami and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that one of the symptoms or identifiable traits, characteristics of pure devotion is that devotees, they're always appreciating the devotion of another devotee. And that's really delineated in Brihad Bhagavatamritam. Every time Narada is praising someone, the devotion of a particular devotee, and saying that who could be better than you, they will humbly deflect that praise and mention someone else. So we go from the Brahmins to the king of South India, to Jagannath Puri, to Indra Loka, to Brahma Loka, to Shiva Loka, to Prahlad Maharaj, to Hanuman, to the Pandavas, to the Yadavas, to Uddhava. And that Uddhava says, Asamaho charanarenu jishamahangshang, Vrindavane kimapi gumalato sadinam, Yaddushtijam swajanamarjapatam chihitva, Bejur mukunda parivim, Shrutibir brahmigyam. I want an atomic presence in the soil, the Chinmoy superconscious soil of Vrindavan, where the Braja Gopis' lotus feet are moving in the plane of service, and if some of the dust from their lotus feet will come upon my head, my existence will be consecrated. And those Braja Gopis we find in the Goloka Mahatmya chapter, Brihad Bhagavatamritam. What are they doing? They're praising those in a least position, just like Raghunath Das Goswami, because he's one of them. They're full of praise. What do we hear in the famous sloka of Chandravali from the pen of Rupa? Saki Murali, what is it? Murali Jalena Purna, Grantam Nirashashi, I can't remember now, but where she is expressing some envy towards the flute. We said you shouldn't be envious, but this is another type. She's saying, that flute is full of faults. Now this is spiritual fault finding. She's saying the flute is just bamboo, a dry piece of bamboo wood. And granta here means knots. So he's saying, and full of holes. So a hole can also be a fault. So this piece of wood, and what does it become? The receptacle of the nectar from the lips of Krishna. She's saying, this is unfair, this is crazy. We're Braja Gopis. What is meant for us is being intercepted by this dry, nirashashi, rasa-less flute. But in the guise of fault-finding here, how much praise she's giving to the flute indirectly. By saying, how exalted is the position. And we hear in the Bhagavatam that the flute's relatives, they're very proud. They live on the banks of the Jamuna River. Like whenever some hometown boy does good, all the people of the town are very proud. So all the relatives of the flute, they're all very proud that one of our own has achieved such a high position with Krishna. So really this praise of devotees, praise of devotion will save us from the faith-destroying arrogance of fault-finding. Any other question? Yes. Yeah.
Сказано, что только возвышенных преданных ты можешь постоянно прославлять, но если преданные средней ступени или низкой ступени, ты должен почитать их в мыслях, что не каждый может приговаривать практически. Благословение Вайшнава — это тоже такая тонкая вещь, что обычных Вайшнавов скорее прежде всего надо почитать в мыслях, а не публично, вот что-то такая мысль.
in Upadishamrita it is said that there is some gradation of the Vaishnavas, and like the highest Vaishnavas you should always glorify, and they're like just beginning Vaishnavas you can glorify in your mind. And he said that he heard some interpretation that because not everybody can digest Pratishtha, so that like maybe beginning Vaishnavas you shouldn't glorify openly, just not to put them in some like danger of Pratishtha or something, because not everybody can digest. So that means that glorifying Vaishnavas is also a little bit tricky thing, and
yes,
some secret things.
Well, a few things can be said in this regard. One is, when Ramachandra Puri was criticizing Mahaprabhu, and the devotees are trying to tolerate for so long, finally, Swarup Damodar intervenes because he said their hearts couldn't take it anymore. And it's mentioned, there's a quote there from the scriptures that said, really in this world you shouldn't praise or fault find. You shouldn't do either one of those things. But if you have to violate one of them, then you can break down and praise somebody. Now, Saraswati Thakur says in one place, if a sadhu becomes my flatterer, he becomes my enemy. And what he's alluding to is a verse from the Bhagavatam that says, sadhu, one definition of sadhu is one who cuts sharply with strong language. So, Vidura tells Dhritarashtra, and very strong, you're living like a kept dog in this house. And it strikes the heart of Dhritarashtra, and he gives up the world, and that type of thing is there. And there are, other examples. But it's a fine line, as you say, between at least we should say this, in our hearts we should give some recognition. It may not always be appropriate to express that, but it should be recognized internally. And with regard to those three stages, what we've heard Srila Guru Maharaj say is that anyone who has any sort of appreciation connection with Krishna consciousness, we're mentally showing some respect, but we're only giving formal respect to those who have legitimate connections. So we're not showing formal respect to sahajiyas because we don't accept that they have a substantial connection. Right? Saying, but if someone has a connection with a substantial Vaishnava, we're showing some formal respect to them. And of the third class, it's told, we offer ourselves to them in service. That's the appropriate response. Not merely to glorify, but to offer oneself to them in service. Srila Saraswati Thakur, when he revived the Vishwa Vaishnav Raja Sabha once a year around the time of Gaur Purnima, they would call a meeting, and at that time, some praise was given to servitors and outstanding servitors. And Guru Maharaj said it was also mentioned if there was some area for improvement as well. So there will be a fine balance of acknowledging the genuine devotional tendencies of others and not, as you say, praising to the extreme so that it awakens pratishtha within one. Because one meaning of pratishtha is self-establishment. So we're told pratishtha is for Gurudev. We transfer whatever praise comes to us to prevent, if we try to digest it ourselves, we'll be unable to. So the Vaishnavas, and not just trying to save themselves, but in a genuine, heartfelt way, they realize if someone's seeing something beneficial in me, I must have gotten that in connection with Guru and Vaishnav. So really, I'm giving the credit to Guru and Vaishnav. We know that parents, they encourage children. There's a particular stage where they're encouraging almost anything they do. The slightest thing is being met with overwhelming praise. Right? There's a point where that has to be drawn down and balanced and adjusted till the praise will come when something substantial has been done. And I think you can find a similar parallel in Krishna consciousness. We may be excused for praising those who are newly connected with Krishna consciousness because, like a child taking baby steps, we want them to feel that they're in an environment of love, affection, and support. So we're giving encouragement. In time, it'll be, they will mature, and it will be more of a substantial thing. Guru Das, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, Swami Maharaj, he was heading the Krishna Balaram project at one point, and he told me this story and I saw also with my own eyes, he'd come to Calcutta from Vrindavan, see Prabhupada, and then when he'd be going, Prabhupada would, oh, our Guru Das is leaving. There would be a big send-off. And then one time he was going, and he just went like, all right, gave his done, all right, I'm going to Vrindavan. And Prabhupada was like, all right. And he's like, Prabhupada, I'm going to Vrindavan. Huh? Yes, you may go. And he said, then he realized, I'm not going to get a big send-off every time. You know, it was time to like grow up a little bit. And sometimes people would call Gurudev and say, Maharaj, I need your mercy, give me your mercy. And then one day he said, I gave you mercy 3 days ago. What happened to that? You know, now they're going to call it once a week for mercy, or every 72 hours. He said, what happened to the mercy I just gave you 3 days ago? I already used that. I need more. So, like all things, there's growth, gradation, infancy, childhood, teenage, etc. There, maturity.
Like the stages of becoming more and more mature. Like first stage is you believe there is a Santa Claus.
Oh, right.
And second stage is you don't believe that there is a Santa Claus. And the third stage is you are a Santa Claus.
So that's like they say. Guru Maharaj would say about in Indian. They say one is I am yours. You are mine. And he said in the Mayavadi, he said the highest stage, Soham, I am you. See, even that can be accommodated in Braja Lila. The Braja Gopis, when they go mad in separation from Krishna, one of them say, I am Krishna. I am lifting Govardhan Hill. Putana, another one. They go into this like Krishna bhav, where they're thinking and their divine madness momentarily that they're taking the position of Krishna, and another gopi is taking another position. So everything can be accommodated there. It's the ultimate all harmonizing plain. But even there, like the Bahulashtami is coming, well, in a few months, yeah, soon, where, and Gopastami, where Krishna, he's up to a certain age, he's taking care of calves. Then the day comes where he's promoted to cowherd. Right? Now you can take care of the cows. Before that, they're only allowed to take care of the calves. So even there, this sort of gradation, growth, development, maturity. But the beauty is Krishna never goes beyond Kishore. Right? Like I told our friend, beloved friend, Mr. Shao, his birth name is Amiya Kumar. But I told him now, in connection with our mat, and he'll be Amiya Kishore. Prabhu. And he liked that change and shift, and because Kumar means in the childhood, we have Kumar, Poganda, Kishore. So Krishna, his childhood pastimes are with Nanda and Yashoda. And this is also a very beautiful thing. They're privy to that. That's where Krishna's almost exclusively theirs. And Braja Gopis are there on the periphery more. Right? They're there, but more peripheral. And so sometimes Chakrabarti Thakur or others back on this point about analysis will say, well, Vasudeva and Devaki, they didn't get to relish these pastimes. Sometimes Nanda Maharaj feels some guilt that Vasudeva and Devaki, they didn't get to, I mean, it's unthinkable. On the one hand, they're so exalted to be the so-called mother and father of Krishna, but they don't get to relish his childhood pastimes, so it's heartbreaking. And really, when Krishna, Balaram, they return to Kamsa and they kill Kamsa, there's some heartfelt like shame, guilt that they didn't get to relish those pastimes. Something like that. But even that can be accommodated in Krishna consciousness as well. They're so great, the intensity of their love, devotion, affection. So then Krishna has this pastimes with the cowherd boys. It transitions from being a toddler with Nanda and Yashoda, Krishna and Balaram, to then with cowherd boys and calves. Then come pastimes with the Braja Gopis. But as I told yesterday, but Braja Gopis sometimes thinking, oh, it would be such a thrill to be a cowherd boy. Then we could go and participate in those pastimes. That's what I mean about devotee. In a natural way, they're appreciating other devotees. We don't get to do that. They get to have that type of seva. They're the most exalted devotees of Krishna, and they're thinking of the others. The flute, the cows, trees, cowherd boys, the good fortune of others. By appreciating the good fortune of others, your own good fortune increases. That's what we mean to say. By appreciating the good fortune of other devotees, your own devotional good fortune increases. Hare Krishna.